There are a lot of tips on what you have the ability to afford when buying a home. My advice is never to over leverage yourself, right? New York City and New York in general has the highest closing cost per purchase than anywhere in the country. You must be prepared to come out of pocket if you're buying anything but a co-op between 3 to 6% on the sales price. A lot of folks don't realize that when you buy a home, you cannot finance closing costs. If you're buying $1 million home and you're putting down 20%, aside from the $200,000 that you have to put and give to the bank or the sellers at closing, you have to write a check for the balance of the closing cost. And remember, closing costs are not something that you can negotiate, with the sellers because you're paying it mostly to the city, state, and county. You really have to be realistic with yourself on what you have the capacity to afford. So seller's concession is a great way for a buyer to save on closing costs, because what you're essentially doing is you're asking the sellers to contribute to your closing costs. Because remember, closing costs must be paid in cash at closing. So you're writing a check to the city and state and the municipalities of where you're purchasing the home, and the sellers can actually contribute to that with a seller's concession, where they give you a percentage, usually up to 6% and not more than 6% of the sales price. In New York, there's something that is extremely complex, which is called a purchase SEMA, where the sellers gives you their collaterals from when they purchased the home so that you can avoid a portion of the transfer tax to New York State. And that's something that strategically the attorneys work out in New York City. And that's called a purchase SEMA.